Before you decide whether to stay or leave, I need you to give me just one honest moment, because what you are about to hear is not something you hear in short clips and not something that can be understood in a few minutes. This message unfolds slowly, just like the phase you are in right now. Let me ask you something gently. Have you felt it? That quiet shift inside you where you are not the same anymore, but you can't fully explain why? You didn't wake up one day and decide to change. It just happened. You became clearer, more careful, more distant from certain things and certain people. And strangely, as you were growing, as you were trying to become better, something else started happening. People changed, not loudly, not clearly, but you felt it. Their energy, their tone, their reactions. And late at night, when no one is watching, you asked yourself questions you never asked before. Why does my growth feel uncomfortable to others? Why do I feel alone even when I'm doing better? Why does getting closer to Allah sometimes feel like it's costing me people? Me dear soul, if these questions sound familiar, I need you to listen very carefully. Because this phase you are in right now is not a small phase. It is not random. It is not accidental. And it is definitely not punishment. It is a crossroad. And many people fail here, not because they are weak, but because they don't understand what Allah is doing. Some people at this stage start shrinking themselves again. They silence their growth. They soften their boundaries. They return to old habits just to feel accepted again. Others grow angry. They become cold. They harden their hearts. They cut everyone off without wisdom. Both paths lead to pain, but there is a third path, a path Allah intends for you, and that is what this message is about. But I must warn you gently, this is not a fast message. This is not entertainment. This is not something you play in the background. This is a journey, because the answers you are looking for cannot be rushed. They reveal themselves layer by layer, just like Allah has been shaping you layer by layer. If you stay with me till the end, you will finally understand why some people react strangely to your growth, why Allah allows distance before elevation, why losing approval may actually be a sign of divine protection, and why this lonely phase may be the most important phase of your life. But if you leave early, you may walk away still confused, still blaming yourself, still trying to fix what Allah already removed. So stay, not because I ask you to, but because something inside you already knows. This message was meant to reach you now. Listen slowly, listen with your heart, because by the end of this message, you will not only understand your growth, you will finally stop fearing it. And that peace is worth staying for. When Allah grows you, He doesn't ask everyone for permission. There is something very important that many people never understand until much later in life. When Allah decides to grow you, He does not make noise about it. He does not announce it to people. He does not send signs to impress the world. He does not explain Himself to anyone. Allah works quietly. Sometimes the most powerful work Allah does in a person's life happens when nobody is watching. You may still look the same on the outside. Your routine may still look ordinary. Your days may still feel normal. But inside, something is changing and you don't always have words for it. You just feel different. You feel less interested in arguing. You feel tired of proving yourself. You feel drawn to silence, to prayer, to peace. Things that once excited you no longer feel important. Things that once hurt you deeply now pass more gently. And you may wonder, what is happening to me? My dear soul, this is Allah growing you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Allah begins by touching the heart. Because when the heart changes, everything else follows. You start to care less about being seen and more about being sincere. You start to care less about winning arguments and more about pleasing Allah. You start choosing calm over chaos, truth over noise, depth over attention. And while you are going through this quiet change, people around you may not understand. They may notice that you speak less, that you explain less, that you react less. Some will feel confused. Some will feel uncomfortable. Some may even feel hurt, not because you did something wrong, But because the version of you they were used to is slowly fading away. The old version that always explained, the old version that always adjusted, the old version that always carried everyone else's weight, that version is being gently replaced. And Allah never asked anyone's permission to do this. He did not consult opinions. He did not check if people were ready, because your healing did not need approval. My dear brother, there is a painful truth we must accept with peace. Not everyone celebrates your growth. Some people were comfortable when you were struggling. Some people felt safe when you were unsure. Some people benefited from your silence. So when Allah gives you strength, it unsettles them. When Allah gives you clarity, it confuses them. When Allah gives you peace, they don't know how to relate to you anymore. And this hurts because you never meant to leave anyone behind. You never meant to change in a way that created distance. But growth naturally creates separation, not because of pride, not because of ego, but because you are no longer the same place people used to stand on. My dear soul, Allah sometimes grows you quietly so you don't get distracted by applause, because applause can corrupt sincerity. If people praised every step of your growth, you might begin growing for them instead of growing for Allah. So Allah removes noise. He removes attention. He keeps the process private. You cry alone. You heal alone. You learn alone. But you are never truly alone. Allah is there in every silent moment. When you sit quietly and feel heavy for no reason, Allah is working. When you pull away without anger, Allah is guiding. When you stop explaining yourself, Allah is protecting. You see, my dear brother, my dear sister, when Allah grows you, He also teaches you something very important. You do not owe everyone access to your heart. Not everyone deserves to know your journey. Not everyone needs to understand your silence. Some people only knew how to reach you when you were broken. But Allah is teaching you how to protect your peace. This does not mean you become rude. This does not mean you become harsh. It means you become wise. You speak when it is necessary. You stay silent when it is safer. You trust Allah more than opinions. And slowly you realize something beautiful. You don't feel the need to prove yourself anymore. That constant pressure inside your chest to be understood by everyone begins to fade, because Allah replaces it with certainty. Certainty that He sees you. Certainty that He knows your intention. Certainty that He is guiding you exactly where you need to go. And when Allah is guiding you, misunderstanding from people becomes lighter. It still hurts sometimes. Yes. You still feel lonely sometimes. Yes. But you no longer feel lost. My dear soul, if people become distant while you are growing, do not chase them with explanations. If people question your change, do not defend yourself with long speeches. Your calm is your answer. Your consistency is your proof. Your character is your voice. Allah never asked you to convince everyone. He asked you to trust Him. And trust sometimes means walking forward quietly, even when no one claps, even when no one understands, even when the path feels lonely, because the most meaningful growth often happens in silence. And when Allah finishes shaping you, you will understand why He kept the process private. As this quiet growth continues, there comes a phase that feels heavier than the rest. Not loud pain, not visible hardship, but a deep, silent loneliness. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can smile, talk, work, pray, yet feel something missing. And you ask yourself, why do I feel this distance inside me? My dear soul, this is not emptiness. This is detachment. Allah is gently loosening your heart from things that once held it too tightly. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming careful. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming discerning. You no longer feel comfortable sharing everything with everyone. You no longer feel the urge to explain every feeling. You no longer chase understanding from those who never truly listened. And this is where growth becomes painful, because the heart remembers how close things used to feel. You remember the laughter. You remember the connection. You remember the comfort. And letting go of that familiarity hurts. But Allah never removes something without replacing it with something better. At first, the replacement is not people. It is peace. A quiet peace. A peace that sits with you at night. A peace that makes sujood feel heavier. A peace that brings tears without words. You begin to feel Allah closer than ever before. And my dear brother, my dear sister, this closeness sometimes costs us closeness elsewhere. Not because people are bad, but because hearts grow at different speeds. Some hearts are still attached to noise. Some hearts are still afraid of silence. Some hearts are still running from healing. And Allah knows where you can grow safely. So He pulls you gently, sometimes painfully away. You start seeing conversations differently. Things that once entertained you now feel empty. Things that once felt urgent now feel small. You listen more than you speak. You observe more than you react. And people notice. They say you are quiet. They say you are different. They say you have changed. But they don't see the nights Allah rebuilt you. They don't see the prayers where you begged for peace. They don't see the inner battles you survived silently. My dear soul, Allah often grows you in ways that cannot be explained in words. That is why explanation feels exhausting now. You realize something important. Not everyone needs to understand your journey for it to be valid. Not everyone needs access to your heart for you to be kind. You can love people without letting them drain you. You can forgive without reopening wounds. You can care without sacrificing your healing. This balance is wisdom, and wisdom often looks like distance to those who don't understand it. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is a moment in this growth where Allah teaches you a powerful lesson. You were never created to be understood by everyone. Even the prophets were misunderstood. Even truth feels strange to those not ready for it. So why exhaust yourself trying to be accepted by all? Allah is teaching you to rest your heart in Him, to find security in His approval, to find strength in His presence. And slowly, very slowly, the loneliness changes shape. It no longer feels like loss. It feels like space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to hear Allah's guidance clearly. You begin to enjoy your own company. Your it becomes deeper. Your gratitude becomes clearer but stronger. You stop rushing connections. You stop forcing closeness. You trust Allah's timing with people the same way you trust His timing with life. And my dear soul, this is when peace becomes stable. Not the peace that depends on others, but the peace that comes from alignment. Alignment with who Allah is shaping you to be. You realize you didn't lose people. You lost dependence. You didn't lose love. You lost confusion. You didn't lose connection. You gained clarity. And one day you will look back and thank Allah for this silent phase. Because if He had allowed everyone to stay close while you were growing, you might never have heard His voice so clearly. You might never have learned how strong you truly are with Him. So walk gently through this phase. Do not rush it. Do not resist it. Do not judge yourself for feeling quiet. Allah is not done with you. He is still shaping, still protecting, still guiding. And when the time is right, He will place people in your life who recognize your growth, not as a threat, but as a blessing. Until then, let the silence teach you. Let the distance heal you. And let Allah complete what He has so beautifully begun. Discomfort appears when you no longer bleed for people. There comes a moment in life when you slowly realize something painful yet freeing. You begin to understand that you can no longer hurt yourself just to keep others comfortable. For a long time, you may have been the one who gave more than you had. You listened even when you were tired. You stayed even when you were breaking. You forgave again and again, even when the wound never healed. And people became used to that. They became comfortable with your silence. They became comfortable with your patience. They became comfortable with your pain. You didn't complain much. You didn't walk away. You didn't demand better. So people assumed you would always be that way. But my dear soul, Allah does not leave His servant bleeding forever. There comes a time when Allah begins to heal you quietly, not with loud miracles, not with sudden changes, but with awareness. You begin to feel tired in a different way, not tired of people, but tired of hurting yourself for them. You begin to notice that every time you say yes, a part of you feels heavy. You begin to notice that after certain conversations, your heart feels drained. You begin to notice that you give love sincerely, but it is not returned with the same care. And Allah gently places a question in your heart. How long will you continue hurting yourself to prove loyalty? This is not anger. This is clarity. And clarity changes everything. My dear brother, my dear sister, when Allah starts healing you, He does not make you cruel. He makes you careful. You still care. You still feel. But you no longer sacrifice your soul to be accepted. And this is where discomfort begins, because people were comfortable when you bled quietly. They were comfortable when you stayed even when you were hurt. They were comfortable when you kept forgiving without boundaries. But when you begin to heal, you stop bleeding. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop apologizing for needing rest. You stop allowing emotional access to everyone. And people feel it. They may not say it clearly, but you feel the shift. They feel you pulling back not in hatred, but in self-respect. And this confuses them. Some may think you are becoming distant. Some may think you are becoming selfish. Some may think you are changing for the worse. But Allah knows the truth. You are not becoming less loving. You are becoming whole. My dear soul, there is a difference between kindness and self-destruction. Allah loves kindness, but Allah does not love injustice even when it is against yourself. For years, you may have tolerated things that slowly damaged your heart. You may have stayed quiet to avoid conflict. You may have ignored your pain to keep peace. But peace that destroys you is not peace. And Allah does not heal you so you can return to the same wounds. So when you begin to step back, when you begin to choose silence over emotional exhaustion, when you begin to protect your heart, it creates discomfort. Not because you are wrong, but because you are no longer available in the same way. And my dear brother, my dear sister, this discomfort is often misunderstood. People think you stopped caring, but only Allah knows how much you cared before it nearly broke you. They didn't see the nights you cried alone. They didn't see the prayers where you asked Allah for strength. They didn't see how much you carried quietly. They only see the boundary, and boundaries feel painful to those who benefited from your lack of them. But listen carefully, my dear soul. A boundary is not rejection. A boundary is protection. Allah teaches you boundaries, not to isolate you from love, but to protect you from harm. You are still gentle. You are still respectful. You are still kind, but you are no longer available for emotional misuse. And this is growth. This is healing. This is Allah teaching you that your heart is valuable, that your emotional energy matters, that you do not need to destroy yourself to prove sincerity. And when you stop bleeding, some people don't know how to stay, because the relationship was built on your sacrifice, not on balance. This hurts deeply because you didn't change to hurt anyone. You changed to survive, and Allah sees that. My dear brother, my dear sister, if you feel guilty for pulling back, if you feel uncomfortable choosing yourself, if you feel selfish for protecting your heart, remember this. Allah does not heal you so you can continue suffering silently. He heals you so you can live with peace. And peace sometimes requires distance, not distance filled with anger, but distance filled with wisdom. You are not abandoning people. You are answering Allah's call to heal. And that call is sacred. As this healing continues, something very delicate happens inside you. You begin to feel guilty for choosing yourself. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you were trained to always put yourself last. For a long time, your worth felt connected to how much you gave, how much you tolerated, how much pain you carried without complaint. So when you finally stop bleeding, your heart feels confused. You ask yourself, am I becoming selfish? Am I abandoning people? Why does protecting myself feel so uncomfortable? My dear soul, this guilt is not a sign of wrongdoing. It is a sign that you are healing from a season where your pain was normalized. Allah is slowly teaching you that kindness does not require self-destruction. You can be merciful without being drained. You can be forgiving without reopening wounds. You can love without losing yourself. This understanding does not come easily, because when you stop bleeding, some people don't know how to stay. They were not attached to you. They were attached to what you gave. They were not connected to your heart. They were connected to your availability. So when you change, When you become quieter, when you become less reachable, the relationship shifts, and this is painful because you still care. You still remember the good moments. You still wish things could stay the same. But Allah is teaching you that not everything that feels familiar is meant to continue. Sometimes Allah heals you by changing what you can tolerate. Things you once accepted without question now feel heavy. Conversations that once felt normal now feel exhausting. Situations that once felt manageable now feel harmful. And this is not weakness, this is awareness. My dear brother, my dear sister, healing does not make you loud, it makes you selective. You start listening to your heart more carefully. You notice when your peace leaves the room. You notice when your energy drops after certain interactions. And instead of ignoring these signs, you begin to respect them. This is Allah guiding you, because Allah speaks not only through words, but through feelings He places in the heart. When something repeatedly drains you, it is not always a test to endure. Sometimes it is a sign to step back. And stepping back does not mean hatred. It means wisdom. You may still make dua for people you no longer allow close. You may still wish them well without being part of their daily life. This is emotional maturity. But my dear soul, this phase feels lonely, because healing often separates you from people who only knew you in pain. You begin to sit more with yourself. You begin to find comfort in quiet. You begin to turn to Allah more often. And slowly something beautiful happens. The noise inside you settles. You no longer feel the constant pressure to explain your feelings. You no longer feel the urge to justify your boundaries. You no longer feel responsible for everyone's emotions. And this lightness is a gift from Allah. It may feel unfamiliar at first. Peace often does when you've lived in survival mode for too long. But this peace grows. Your prayers feel deeper. Your dua becomes more honest. Your tears feel lighter. You begin to understand that Allah did not remove people from your life to punish you. He removed them to protect what He healed. Because if you return to the same wounds, the healing would not last. My dear brother, my dear sister, if some people walk away when you stop bleeding, let them go with peace. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with trust in Allah's wisdom, because those who truly care for you will respect your healing, and those who don't were never meant to stay in this new chapter. And one day you will look back and thank Allah that He taught you how to stop bleeding without hardening your heart. That is true growth. That is true healing. And that is Allah's mercy upon you. Growth exposes what words never could. There comes a stage in growth that feels confusing at first. You are not saying much. You are not doing anything dramatic. You are not trying to prove anything. Yet somehow people start reacting, not to your words, but to your presence. You may wonder, I didn't say anything wrong. Why does it feel like something changed? My dear soul, sometimes your growth speaks louder than your voice ever could. When Allah gives you clarity, you stop repeating yourself. When Allah gives you strength, you stop defending yourself. When Allah gives you peace, you stop reacting the way you used to. And the silence becomes uncomfortable for some people because they were used to your explanations. They were used to your emotional reactions. They were used to your energy being available. Now it isn't the same. Not because you are hiding something, but because you are seeing something. You begin to notice patterns you once ignored. You begin to notice how certain words affect you. You begin to notice how certain people drain you. And instead of arguing about it, you simply step back. This quiet withdrawal is powerful, but it also reveals things. You see, my dear brother, my dear sister, when Allah grows you, He sharpens your awareness. You start seeing intentions behind actions. You start sensing when something is not sincere. You start recognizing when peace leaves the room. And this awareness makes others uneasy because they can no longer hide behind confusion. You are no longer easily manipulated. You are no longer easily distracted. You are no longer easily pulled into drama. And this change exposes what words never could. Some people were comfortable when you didn't see clearly. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself. They were comfortable when you questioned your own worth, but clarity removes that comfort. My dear soul, this is not arrogance. This is Allah opening your eyes. And opened eyes change everything. You no longer argue your truth, you live it. You no longer explain your boundaries, you honor them. You no longer chase validation. You trust Allah's view of you. And this quiet confidence can feel threatening to those who relied on your uncertainty. So they react, sometimes with distance, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with silence of their own. And this hurts because you never wanted conflict. You never wanted separation. You just wanted peace. But peace is honest. Peace does not pretend. Peace does not perform. Peace does not beg. Peace simply is. My dear brother, my dear sister, when Allah gives you this level of clarity, He also gives you restraint. You feel the urge to explain yourself, and then you don't. You feel the urge to correct others, and then you don't. You feel the urge to defend your heart, and then you trust Allah instead. This restraint is maturity, but maturity often looks like distance to those who thrived on chaos. You see, not everyone wants clarity. Some people prefer confusion because confusion allows control. But when you become clear, you cannot be controlled the same way. And that is why your growth exposes things without you ever speaking. Your calm reveals insecurity. Your boundaries reveal entitlement. Your silence reveals intention. And you didn't do anything wrong. Allah simply elevated your awareness. My dear soul, this phase can feel isolating because you see more, but you say less. You understand more, but you explain less. You feel deeply, but you express selectively. And this makes relationships feel different. Some grow stronger, some fade naturally, not because of hatred, but because alignment has shifted. Allah never meant for you to stay blind just to stay close. He never meant for you to stay confused just to be accepted. Truth may cost comfort, but it gives peace, and peace is priceless. My dear brother, my dear sister, if you feel like people are reacting to you, even though you haven't changed your behavior, it may be because Allah changed your vision. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. You cannot pretend. You cannot shrink awareness. This is growth. This is Allah teaching you to live with eyes open and heart guarded. And though it may feel lonely at times, this clarity will save you from deeper pain later. Because confusion hurts longer than truth. As this clarity settles deeper into your heart, you begin to notice something else. Your silence changes. It is no longer the silence of fear. It is no longer the silence of confusion. It becomes the silence of understanding. You no longer speak just to fill space. You no longer respond just to be polite. You no longer explain just to feel accepted. And this silence becomes powerful because when you stop speaking unnecessarily, people start revealing themselves. They speak more. They react more. They expose more. And you begin to see clearly who respects your presence and who only valued your reactions. This is not something you planned. This is something Allah allowed you to witness. You start seeing how some people feel uneasy when you are calm. They are used to you questioning yourself. They are used to you seeking reassurance. They are used to you doubting your own feelings. But now, you don't. And that shift unsettles them. Because your calm does not ask for permission. Your calm does not seek approval. Your calm simply exists. And my dear soul, this calm exposes insecurity without effort. When you stop defending yourself, those who relied on your defense feel exposed. When you stop reacting emotionally, those who fed on reaction feel uncomfortable. You begin to understand that not every relationship was built on truth. Some were built on access. Some were built on availability. Some were built on emotional supply. And when Allah removes confusion from your heart, those foundations shake. This is not your doing. This is Allah's mercy. Because confusion keeps you trapped. Clarity sets you free. But freedom comes with a cost. You begin to outgrow conversations. You begin to feel distant even when close. You begin to crave depth instead of noise. And this makes you feel lonely at times. Because once you see clearly, you cannot pretend not to see. You cannot laugh at what feels empty. You cannot agree to what feels wrong. You cannot stay silent about what hurts your soul. So you choose peace, and peace chooses honesty. My dear brother, my dear sister, this phase teaches you a very important lesson. Not everyone who reacts to your clarity is against you. Some are simply not ready. Clarity forces people to face themselves, and not everyone has the courage for that. So they may pull away. They may criticize. They may misunderstand. But you are not responsible for how people respond to truth. You are responsible for staying sincere with Allah. And Allah never opens your eyes to punish you. He opens them to protect you. He allows you to see early what would have hurt you later. He removes illusion before they become wounds. This awareness saves you from emotional harm that once felt unavoidable. You begin to trust your instincts again. You begin to respect your inner signals. You begin to listen to your heart without guilt. And this trust is healing. My dear soul, clarity does not make you superior. It makes you selective. You choose where to invest your energy. You choose when to speak and when to stay quiet. You choose peace over performance. And this selection is wisdom. Wisdom is not loud. Wisdom is not dramatic. Wisdom is calm, steady, and observant. And Allah loves wisdom. As this phase continues, you will notice something comforting. You feel lighter, not because life became easier, but because you stopped carrying confusion. You stop overthinking people's intentions. You stop second guessing your feelings. You stop blaming yourself for clarity. And with this lightness comes trust. Trust that Allah is guiding you. Trust that what is meant to stay will stay. Trust that what leaves was never stable enough to carry your growth. So if you feel exposed without speaking, if you feel misunderstood without explaining, if you feel alone without being abandoned, remember this, my dear brother, my dear sister. Allah did not grow you to isolate you. He grew you to protect you. And this clarity, this silence, this awareness, it is not loss, it is mercy. Not everyone who loved you can walk with the new you. There comes a moment in life when you slowly begin to realize something that feels heavy on the heart. You still care, you still respect, you still wish good for people. Yet somehow, you can no longer walk with everyone the way you used to. And this realization hurts more than people expect, because you never wanted distance. You never wanted separation. You never wanted to outgrow anyone. You only wanted peace. But growth changed direction. And when direction changes, not everyone can walk beside you. Some people loved you deeply. Some people supported you sincerely. Some people were part of your life for a long time, but that does not always mean they are meant to walk with you into every new chapter. My dear soul, this is one of the hardest lessons Allah teaches, because the heart says, if they were there before, why not now? And Allah gently answers, because who you were before is not who you are becoming. This is not rejection, this is alignment. Allah grows people in stages. Not everyone grows at the same pace. Not everyone grows in the same direction. Some hearts are still learning lessons you already learned. Some souls are still healing wounds you have already healed. Some minds are still attached to things Allah already removed from your heart. And that difference creates distance. Not because of anger, not because of hatred, but because growth changes movement. You start valuing quiet more than noise. You start valuing depth more than attention. You start valuing sincerity more than familiarity. And suddenly, some connections feel heavy. Not wrong, just heavy. You try to keep them alive the same way. You try to talk the same way. You try to show up the same way. But something feels forced. And forcing closeness is painful. My dear brother, my dear sister, Allah never asks you to force what no longer flows naturally. Because when something is meant for you, it does not require constant effort to keep it alive. Relationships that grow with you adjust naturally, but relationships that were tied to your old version begin to struggle. And this is where guilt enters. You ask yourself, am I abandoning people? Am I becoming ungrateful? Why can't I be the same? But Allah does not want you to remain the same. Staying the same is not loyalty. When it costs your peace, you are allowed to grow. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to become healthier. And not everyone is meant to follow that change. Some people only knew how to connect with you through struggle. They only knew you when you were unsure. when you were available all the time, when you carried more than you should have. But Allah is changing you. He is teaching you balance. You begin to notice that certain conversations no longer nourish your heart. You begin to feel drained after interactions that once felt normal. You begin to sense that staying close is costing you something inside, and Allah is merciful. He does not force you to keep hurting yourself to preserve a connection. Instead, He gently creates distance. Sometimes without words, sometimes without conflict, sometimes without explanation. Just a slow drifting. And drifting hurts because the memories are real. The laughter was real. The support was real. The connection was real. But seasons change. And my dear soul, not every person who mattered before is meant to matter in the same way now. This does not erase their value. It does not erase your gratitude. It simply means their role has changed. Allah knows what each heart can handle. He knows who can walk with you into growth and who would slow you down without meaning to. So He separates gently, not always dramatically, not always painfully at first, but clearly. You begin to feel it inside, and resisting this separation only creates inner conflict, because deep down you know Allah is guiding you. You may still love them, you may still pray for them, you may still wish them well, but you can no longer walk at the same pace, and that is okay. Allah never said every journey must be walked together. Some people walk with you to teach you lessons, some walk with you to heal you, some walk with you to prepare you, but not all walk with you to the destination. My dear brother, my dear sister, this phase feels lonely because you are not surrounded the same way anymore. You are not understood the same way anymore. But you are becoming more aligned with what Allah wants from you. And alignment brings peace. Even if it brings distance, you are not losing love. You are losing what no longer fits your growth. And Allah does not remove without wisdom. He knows what you are becoming. And He knows who can truly walk with that version of you. As this distance slowly becomes real, your heart begins to feel many things at once. Sadness, gratitude, confusion, and sometimes even fear. You miss people who are still alive. You miss closeness that no longer feels possible. You miss conversations that once flowed easily. And this hurts deeply because the bond was real. The memories were real. The care was real. But my dear soul, Allah does not remove something lightly. If He is allowing distance, there is wisdom in it. Sometimes closeness continues only because of habit, not because it is still healthy. And Allah is too merciful to let you stay in something that slowly drains you. This distance is not punishment, it is protection. You see, when growth happens, it requires space. Just like a plant cannot grow properly if it is constantly crowded. The soul cannot grow if it is constantly pulled back. Allah creates space so you can breathe. And in that space, you begin to hear yourself again. You begin to hear your thoughts clearly. You begin to feel your emotions honestly. You begin to recognize what truly matters. This space teaches you who you are without constant influence. And that is powerful. But my dear brother, my dear sister, this does not mean you become hard. It does not mean you stop caring. You still smile. You still show respect. You still make dua for those who are no longer close. But you no longer force access. Because access to your heart is now sacred. Allah taught you its value through pain. This phase teaches you that love does not always mean closeness. Sometimes love means letting go with peace. Sometimes love means stepping back so both hearts can breathe. And this kind of love is mature. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is quiet and respectful. You also begin to understand that not everyone who leaves is being taken away. Some are simply choosing what aligns with them, and that choice deserves respect. You do not chase. You do not question. You do not demand explanations. You trust Allah because He sees what you cannot. He knows who will support your growth and who will feel threatened by it. He knows who will walk with you in peace and who will pull you back without intending harm. So He guides gently, my dear soul. There is a comfort that comes later in this phase, a calm acceptance. You stop asking, why couldn't they grow with me? And you start saying, Alhamdulillah for what was and what is no longer needed. This acceptance brings peace. You no longer feel anger. You no longer feel bitterness. You feel understanding. Understanding that every connection had a purpose. Some were lesson, some were support, some were preparation. And when their purpose was fulfilled, Allah allowed change. You did not fail them. They did not fail you. The season simply ended, and Allah is the best of planners. As this peace settles, you also notice something else. Your heart feels lighter. You are no longer carrying emotional weight that was not yours to carry. You are no longer responsible for keeping every bond alive. You are free to grow, free to become, free to align with Allah's plan. And my dear brother, my dear sister, when Allah replaces closeness with clarity, it is a gift, because clarity protects you from returning to confusion. It protects you from shrinking yourself again. It protects the work Allah is doing inside you. So walk forward gently. Do not rush new connections. Do not fear quiet seasons. Allah is not removing people to leave you empty. He is creating space for what truly belongs in your life. And what is meant for you will never require you to stop growing. Trust Him. He knows exactly who belongs in your journey ahead. When your circle shrinks, your direction becomes clear. There comes a time when life becomes quieter than it used to be, not empty, not lonely in the way people imagine. You look around and notice that the noise has reduced. The constant messages have slowed. The gatherings feel fewer. The voices around you are not as many. And at first, this feels strange. Because for a long time, your life may have been full of people, full of opinions, full of advice, full of expectations. You were surrounded, yet often tired. Now, the circle feels smaller, and your heart asks, why did this happen? My dear soul, this is not loss. This is clarity. When Allah begins to guide someone seriously, He reduces the noise around them. Because too many voices confuse the heart. Too many opinions weaken conviction. Too many distractions delay purpose. So Allah gently removes excess, not suddenly, not cruelly, but wisely. You begin to notice that conversations change. You are no longer interested in talking just to pass time. You no longer enjoy discussions that go nowhere. You no longer feel fulfilled by shallow connections. You crave meaning. You crave sincerity. You crave depth. And depth does not require a crowd. Depth requires space. So Allah creates that space. At first, it feels uncomfortable because the ego likes attention. The heart remembers laughter. The mind remembers familiarity, but the soul knows better. The soul knows that growth needs quiet. And my dear brother, my dear sister, when the circle shrinks, something beautiful happens. Your direction becomes clear. When there are fewer voices telling you who to be, you begin hearing who Allah wants you to become. When there are fewer expectations pulling you in different directions, your path straightens. You stop trying to please everyone. You stop adjusting yourself for every environment. You stop changing colors to fit into rooms that no longer feel right. And this is freeing, because for the first time, you are not walking in 10 directions at once. You are walking forward. My dear soul, many people fear a small circle. They think it means rejection. They think it means failure. They think it means something is wrong with them. But often, a smaller circle is a sign of maturity. Children need crowds to feel safe. Adults need clarity to feel at peace. Allah does not shrink your circle to make your life smaller. He shrinks it to make your focus sharper. You begin to see who truly supports your growth. You begin to see who respects your silence. You begin to see who brings peace, not pressure. And this discernment is a gift, because not everyone who laughs with you is meant to walk with you. Not everyone who shows up is meant to stay. Some people are there for seasons, some for lesson, some for preparation. And when their role is complete, Allah allows space. My dear brother, my dear sister, as your circle becomes smaller, your dependence shifts. You stop leaning so heavily on people. You stop expecting others to carry your emotions. You stop needing constant reassurance, and instead you turn more towards Allah. Your dua becomes more honest. Your sujood becomes heavier. Your connection with Allah becomes personal, not rushed, not public, but deep. You realize that when Allah is enough, you are not desperate for validation. You are not chasing approval. You are not afraid of being alone, because you are never truly alone when Allah is with you. This phase also teaches you responsibility. When the noise is gone, you cannot hide behind excuses. You cannot blame distractions. You face yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your intentions. And this self-awareness is powerful. It humbles you. It makes you careful. It makes you sincere. You stop performing goodness. You start living it. My dear soul, this is why Allah removes distractions before He gives purpose. If He gave you responsibility while your life was noisy, you would lose focus. If He elevated you while you were surrounded by chaos, you would lose direction. So He simplifies. He clears the path. He removes what pulls you sideways. And suddenly, life feels slower but more meaningful. You sleep better. You think clearer. You choose wiser. And you begin to trust Allah's timing with people. You no longer force connections. You allow them to grow naturally or fade peacefully. And this acceptance brings relief. My dear brother, my dear sister, a small circle is not a weak circle. It is a strong one, because those who remain are aligned. They respect your growth. They do not compete with it. They do not fear it. They support it quietly. And even if that circle is just you and Allah for now, that is enough. Because from that place, Allah builds everything else. As this quieter season continues, you begin to notice how different life feels on the inside. Not dramatic. Not exciting in the way the world defines excitement, but steady. And steadiness is a blessing many people don't recognize until much later. When your circle becomes smaller, your heart is no longer pulled in many directions. You are not trying to be 10 versions of yourself at the same time. You are not adjusting your words for every person. You are not living in constant reaction. You finally have room to think. And thinking clearly is a gift from Allah. You start waking up with a calmer heart. Your mind is less crowded. Your emotions are less chaotic. Problems still exist. Yes, life is still life. But you are not overwhelmed the same way anymore. Because overwhelm often comes from carrying too much that was never yours to carry. Too many expectations, too many emotional responsibilities, too many unnecessary connections. Allah removes these slowly so your soul can breathe again. My dear soul, this is how Allah prepares people for responsibility. Before He gives weight, He removes excess. Before He gives purpose, He removes distraction. Before He trusts you with something big, He trains you in quiet. Look at how Allah prepared the prophets. Many of them were alone before they were known. Many of them were tested in isolation before guidance spread through them. Not because isolation is the goal, but because clarity is. In quiet moments, you begin to hear Allah's guidance more clearly. Your heart becomes sensitive again, sensitive to right and wrong, sensitive to sincerity, sensitive to intention. You no longer rush decisions. You no longer jump into things emotionally. You wait, and waiting is not weakness. Waiting is wisdom. Because now you are no longer driven by fear of missing out. You are guided by peace. My dear brother, my dear sister, this smaller circle also teaches you gratitude. You begin to appreciate genuine presence. You value sincere words. You notice who listens without judgment. And you stop taking real connections for granted. When you have fewer people around, you see them more clearly. You see who shows up without being asked. You see who respects your boundaries. You see who supports your growth quietly, and you cherish that. This makes your heart softer, not harder. Contrary to what many think, a small circle does not make you bitter. It makes you gentle, because you are no longer exhausted, because you are no longer defensive, because you are no longer overextended. You have energy again. Energy to be kind, energy to be patient, energy to worship Allah with focus. My dear soul, there is also a test in this phase, the test of temptation. Sometimes when life becomes quiet, the ego misses attention. It misses being needed. It misses being involved in everything. And this is where Allah watches your intention. Will you run back to noise just to feel important? Or will you stay patient and trust that Allah is doing something meaningful? Staying in quiet requires strength, because quiet removes distraction and forces honesty. You face yourself, your habits, your fears, your weaknesses, but you also discover your strengths. You discover resilience you didn't know you had. You discover patience that surprises you. You discover a deeper relationship with Allah. And this discovery changes how you see life. You no longer panic when things slow down. You no longer fear empty spaces. You understand that not every pause is a problem. Sometimes a pause is preparation. My dear brother, my dear sister, as Allah simplifies your life, you also begin to simplify your desires. You want less, but you want it more sincerely. You don't want many people. You want the right ones. You don't want loud success. You want meaningful progress. You don't want constant happiness. You want lasting peace. And this shift is maturity. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop comparing. You trust Allah's pace. And Allah loves this trust, because when you trust Allah in quiet seasons, you are ready for louder ones. When you remain sincere in isolation, you are protected in attention. When you are content with a small circle, Allah knows you won't lose yourself. When the circle grows again, yes, my dear soul, the circle may grow again, but it will grow right. It will grow with people who respect your journey, people who don't compete with your peace, people who don't fear your growth. Until then, this quiet season is not empty. It is full of meaning, full of growth, full of alignment, full of Allah's unseen work. So do not rush it. Do not question it. Do not compare it to others. Allah is building you carefully, and careful work takes time. Trust Him, because when Allah reduces noise, He is increasing purpose. And when Allah simplifies your life, He is preparing you for something that requires a clear heart and a steady soul. May Allah grant you peace in this season, clarity in your heart, and patience in your waiting. Being misunderstood is often the price of becoming sincere. There comes a stage in life when you begin to realize something that feels uncomfortable at first. People don't understand you the way they used to. You speak with sincerity, yet you feel misunderstood. You act with good intention, yet people assume the worst. You stay quiet, yet they say you are distant. And inside your heart, a question forms. Why does it feel like no one truly understands me anymore? My dear soul, this is not failure. This is sincerity. When Allah begins to purify your intention, your life stops being easily explained to everyone. Because sincerity is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not designed to impress. Sincerity is simple. And simple things are often misunderstood. There was a time when you were easily understood because you were predictable. People knew how you would react. They knew what you would tolerate. They knew how to approach you, but Allah has changed you. You no longer react the same way. You no longer respond out of emotion. You no longer rush to defend yourself. And this confuses people because they were used to the old version of you. The version that explained too much. The version that apologized too quickly. The version that carried blame just to keep peace. But Allah did not heal you, so you could continue living that way. My dear brother, my dear sister, when sincerity grows, misunderstanding increases. This is a difficult truth because sincerity makes you firm with Allah and gentle with people. But firmness with Allah often looks like stubbornness to the world. When you choose prayer over gatherings, some will call you distant. When you choose silence over arguments, some will call you cold. When you choose boundaries over constant availability, some will call you selfish. But Allah knows your intention, and intention is everything. The Prophet ﷺ himself was misunderstood, not because he was unclear, but because truth is heavy on hearts that are not ready. So if you feel misunderstood while trying to do right, do not panic. This is not a sign you are wrong. This is a sign you are becoming sincere. My dear soul, there is a pain in being misunderstood, especially when you never intended harm. You replay conversations in your mind. You wonder if you should have explained better. You wonder if silence was a mistake. But Allah teaches you something powerful here. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Sometimes silence protects sincerity, because the more you explain yourself to the wrong people, the more you lose peace. And peace is a gift from Allah. You see, when Allah refines your heart, He also refines your circle. People who only understood you when you were emotionally available all the time will struggle now. People who only felt close to you when you were unsure will feel distant now. And this hurts, because you did not change to push anyone away. You changed to obey Allah, and obedience is not always celebrated. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is a special strength in remaining sincere even when misunderstood. It teaches you to seek Allah's approval over people's acceptance. It teaches you to anchor your worth in Allah's knowledge of you. It teaches you that being right with Allah is more important than being liked by everyone. And this lesson is not easy, because the heart wants to be understood. The heart wants reassurance. The heart wants validation, but Allah is teaching your heart to rest in Him, to find comfort in His awareness, to trust that He sees what people misread. This is a high level of faith, and Allah does not give it to everyone. My dear soul, when you stop explaining yourself excessively, you may feel lonely at first, because explanation once felt like connection. But slowly you begin to feel lighter. You realize you no longer carry the burden of managing everyone's opinion. You no longer feel responsible for correcting every misunderstanding. You trust Allah to defend you in ways you never could. And Allah is the best defender. There is something peaceful about knowing Allah knows the truth, even if the world never does. Even if people walk away with wrong assumptions, even if your intentions remain unseen, Allah says, and that is enough. My dear brother, my dear sister, this stage also teaches patience. Patience with people, patience with silence, patience with being misunderstood, because clarity does not always come immediately. Sometimes Allah allows misunderstanding to test your sincerity. Will you remain gentle or become bitter? Will you stay humble or become defensive? Will you continue doing good or change yourself to please others? Allah watches these moments closely, and each time you choose sincerity over reaction, your heart grows stronger. You begin to understand that not everyone deserves access to your explanation. Some people only want information, not understanding. Some people only want to judge, not listen. And Allah protects you by teaching you when to stay silent. This silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. My dear soul, being misunderstood does not mean you are alone. It means Allah is teaching you independence from people's opinions. It means your faith is becoming internal, not performative. It means your goodness is becoming private, not for show. And private goodness is beloved to Allah. As this season continues, the weight of being misunderstood does not disappear overnight. There are days when it sits quietly in your chest. Days when you replay moments in your mind. Days when you wish people could see your heart the way Allah sees it. And this is where the test deepens. Because it is one thing to be misunderstood once or twice. It is another thing to remain misunderstood and still remain kind. This is not easy. Your nafs whispers, explain yourself. Defend your intention. Clear your name. But Allah whispers something gentler. Be patient. I know. And my dear soul, learning to trust that whisper changes you forever. You slowly realize that explaining yourself does not always bring clarity. Sometimes it brings more confusion. Sometimes it invites judgment. Sometimes it drains your heart. So Allah teaches you restraint, not because your voice does not matter, but because your peace matters more. You begin to choose silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You speak when words will help. You stay quiet when words will harm. And this balance is maturity. But my dear brother, my dear sister, this maturity can feel lonely. Because when you stop explaining, some people stop asking. They fill the silence with assumptions. They create stories that suit their understanding, and you feel the pain of being seen wrongly. This pain is real. Islam does not deny pain. Even the best of creation felt pain when misunderstood. So do not shame yourself for feeling hurt, but do not let hurt shape your character. Allah is watching how you respond. Do you become harsh or do you become gentle? Do you close your heart completely or do you guard it wisely? This is where sincerity grows strong roots. Sincerity is not proven when people praise you. It is proven when they misunderstand you. Because when praise disappears, only intention remains. And Allah loves intention. My dear soul, there is something beautiful that happens. When you remain sincere despite misunderstanding, you become internally anchored. You no longer depend on people to tell you who you are. You stop asking the world for identity. You already know where you stand with Allah. And that certainty brings strength, a quiet strength. A strength that does not argue. A strength that does not boast. A strength that does not chase approval. This is the strength of those who are grounded in faith, and Allah prepares such people carefully, often through misunderstanding, because leadership requires resilience. Guidance requiert patience. Influence requires humility. Allah knows that if praise shaped you, criticism would break you. So He removes both. He leaves you with sincerity alone. My dear brother, my dear sister, there will be moments when you feel tempted to lower your standards just to be understood again, to explain too much, to overextend emotionally, to return to old patterns. Bit pause. Remember why Allah changed you. He did not grow you to send you back into confusion. He did not heal you to return you to exhaustion. He did not strengthen you to make you smaller again. Trust His process, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is lonely. Because Allah never wastes sincerity. Every quiet good deed is recorded. Every patient response is seen. Every moment you choose Allah over ego is stored for you. And one day, you may not even need to be understood, because peace will fill the space where explanation once lived. You will walk calmly, speak gently, and live honestly. And those who are meant to understand you will understand you without explanation. And those who are not were never meant to walk this part of the journey with you. So my dear soul, do not fear being misunderstood. Fear losing sincerity. Fear changing your heart to fit people's comforts. Because when Allah is pleased with you, being misunderstood by the world becomes a small thing. And when Allah knows your intention, no false assumption can harm your destiny. Remain sincere, remain patient, remain close to Allah, because this stage, as painful as it feels, is shaping you into someone who can carry trust, responsibility, and peace. And Allah only gives such weight to hearts He has prepared. May Allah grant you patience, protect your sincerity, and replace misunderstanding with inner peace. Allah separates before He elevates. There comes a time in life when Allah does something that feels very strange at first. He begins to separate you, not suddenly, not loudly, not in a way that shocks the world, but quietly. You may not even notice it at the beginning. You just feel that people are not as close anymore. Messages slow down. Invitations become fewer. Conversations feel shorter. And you ask yourself, what happened? My dear soul, nothing went wrong. This is Allah working. Before Allah elevates someone, He often separates them, not to punish them, not to break them, but to prepare them. Because elevation carries weight, and not every heart is ready to carry weight. Allah knows that if He lifts you while everyone still has access to you, you might lose focus. So He gently creates distance. Sometimes from people, sometimes from places, sometimes from habits that once felt normal. This separation hurts because the heart remembers closeness. You remember how connected things once felt. You remember laughter, support, shared moments. And now silence replaces that. And silence can feel heavy. But my dear brother, my dear sister, Allah never separates without purpose. When Allah separates you, He is asking you to look inward. He is asking you to sit with yourself, to listen to your heart, to recognize what truly matters. You begin spending more time alone. And at first, this feels uncomfortable because many people are not used to being alone with their thoughts. Noise once distracted you. People once filled gaps. Conversations once helped you escape feelings. Now, Allah removes those distractions and you sit. You think, you reflect. You pray differently. Your dua becomes more honest. Your tears become quieter but deeper. You no longer speak to Allah in rushed words. You speak to Him with your heart. And this is where real growth happens. My dear soul, Allah often isolates those He plans to use. Not because they are weak, but because they are being refined. Gold is separated from dust before it shines. Strength is built in silence before it is tested in public. Allah is doing the same with you. He removes unnecessary voices so you can hear His guidance clearly. When everyone has an opinion, the heart becomes confused. So Allah reduces opinions. He reduces influence. He reduces emotional noise. And slowly you begin to feel something new. Clarity. You start seeing things you ignored before. You start understanding patterns. You start recognizing what was draining you, and this awareness protects you. But my dear brother, my dear sister, this phase can feel lonely because you are no longer surrounded the same way. You may feel unseen, you may feel forgotten, you may feel like you are standing alone, and shaitan whispers, Allah has abandoned you. But that whisper is a lie. Allah is closer to you now than He has ever been. It is just quieter. And quiet does not mean empty. Quiet is where Allah builds strength. In quiet moments, you learn patience. You learn how to sit with discomfort without running back to unhealthy attachments. You learn how to trust Allah without needing constant reassurance. You learn how to stand on your own feet with faith as your support. This is powerful training, my dear soul. Before Allah entrusts you with influence, He tests you with isolation. Before Allah gives you leadership, He teaches you humility. Before Allah lifts your name, He teaches you to live without praise. Because if praise feeds you, criticism will destroy you. So Allah removes both. He leaves you with Him and Him alone. This is not abandonment. This is selection. Allah is choosing you for something greater. But greatness is not built in crowds. It is built in quiet rooms, late night prayers, and moments where only Allah sees your struggle. You begin to understand that you don't need constant companionship to feel complete. Allah becomes enough. And when Allah is enough, people become a blessing, not a necessity. This shift changes everything. You stop chasing people. You stop forcing closeness. You stop fearing distance. You trust Allah's plan with relationships the same way you trust His plan with life. My dear brother, my dear sister, this separation also protects you because not everyone can handle your elevation. Some people would hold you back without meaning to. Some would project their fears onto you. Some would drain you emotionally. Allah removes them quietly, so no one feels attacked. So no bridges burn unnecessarily, just distance. And distance can be mercy, because Allah knows what you are becoming. He knows the responsibility ahead. He knows the strength required, and He knows who can walk with that version of you and who cannot. So He prepares the ground first. He clears the space. He strengthens the roots. And when the time comes, He will elevate you in ways that will make this quiet season make sense. What leaves you during growth was never meant to carry you forward. There comes a moment in this journey when Allah does something that feels final, not harsh, not cruel, but firm. Things begin to leave your life. People drift away. Opportunities close. Doors that once felt important no longer open. And your heart feels afraid. You ask yourself, why is everything being taken away now? Why does it feel like I'm losing so much while I'm trying to grow? My dear soul, this is not loss. This is lightening. Allah never removes what you truly need. He removes what you are no longer meant to carry, because some things were not protecting you. They were slowing you down. Some connections were not supporting you. They were draining you. Some doors were not leading you forward. They were keeping you stuck. So Allah intervenes, and His intervention can feel painful when you are attached to what He removes. But Allah is gentle. He does not rip things away suddenly. He loosens your heart first. You begin to feel tired of what once excited you. You begin to feel uneasy in places you once felt comfortable. You begin to sense that something no longer fits. And when it finally leaves, your heart is already prepared. Still, it hurts. Because attachment is real. You remember the memories. You remember the hopes. You remember the effort you invested. And you think, was it all for nothing? No, my dear brother, my dear sister, nothing Allah allows in your life is wasted. Some things came to teach you, some came to shape you, some came to prepare you. And when their purpose was complete, Allah removed them. Not to punish you, but to protect your future. My dear soul, Allah sees the path ahead. When you only see the moment you are in, He knows what will exhaust you later. He knows what will distract you later. He knows what will break you later. So He removes it now. This is mercy. Even if it feels like pain, even if it feels like emptiness, even if it feels unfair, because Allah never removes without replacing. At first, the replacement is not obvious. You feel space, silence, a strange emptiness, and shaitan whispers, look at what you lost. But Allah wants you to see what you are becoming. You are becoming lighter. You are no longer carrying what weighed you down. You are no longer emotionally attached to things that were unstable. You are no longer dependent on people who could not walk your future with you. And slowly something changes. Your heart breathes again. You sleep better. You think clearer. You pray with less noise inside your chest because the clutter is gone. My dear brother, my dear sister, some things leave not because you failed, but because you outgrew them. And outgrowing is painful because growth stretches the soul, but Allah would never stretch you without strengthening you. If something leaves while you are growing, it means it was never meant to go where Allah is taking you, because what is meant for your future will not fall apart during your growth. It will grow with you. You may not see it yet, but Allah is clearing the path. And clear paths feel empty at first, but they allow movement, they allow speed, they allow direction. My dear soul, this stage teaches you trust, deep trust. Trust that Allah knows what you don't. Trust that what left did not belong to your destination. Trust that what remains is enough for now. And trust that Allah's timing is always kinder than your attachment. You begin to release things differently. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with acceptance. You say, Ya Allah, if you removed it, then it was never meant to stay. And this surrender brings peace, not instant happiness, but peace, and peace is stronger than happiness, because happiness comes and goes, but peace stays. My dear brother, my dear sister, one day you will look back and thank Allah for what He removed, because you will see clearly how it would have held you back. You will see how it would have delayed you. You will see how it would have distracted you from the version of yourself Allah was building. But right now, you are in the middle of the process, and the middle always feels unclear. So be gentle with yourself. Do not rush healing. Do not compare journeys. Do not question Allah's wisdom. He is not taking things away to leave you empty. He is making room for what truly belongs. If you are still here, I want you to understand something very important. You did not stay until the end because you had nothing better to do. You stayed because your soul recognized this message, and that itself is a sign that you are not imagining this phase, a sign that you are not broken, a sign that Allah is not distant from you. Everything you heard today was not meant to rush you. It was meant to steady you, because Allah does not grow His servants in noise. He grows them in silence. He strengthens them in private, and He protects them by removing what cannot walk with them forward. If people reacted to your growth, it was not because you became bad. It was because you became different. If you felt lonely while becoming better, it was not abandonment. It was preparation. If things left your life while you were healing, it was not loss. It was lightening. My dear soul, you are not behind. You are not late. You are not failing. You are being refined. And refinement is never comfortable. But one day, not today, not tomorrow, you will look back at this quiet phase and realize something beautiful. Allah was protecting you from becoming someone you were never meant to remain. So walk gently from here. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to rush clarity. Stay sincere. Stay humble. Stay close to Allah. What is meant for you will never require you to shrink yourself. And what leaves during your growth was never strong enough to carry your future. If your heart feels calm right now, even just a little, that is Allah reassuring you. You are exactly where you need to be. And Allah is not finished with you yet. May Allah guard your heart, strengthen your faith, and replace every quiet tear with a peace that stays